Welcome to Ridgewood Talks. Through this podcast, we will be introducing you to some of the leaders and legends in our village. We'll keep you updated about fascinating local events. We'll dig into the town's hot topics and so much more. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Jeanne Johnson, the founder of Ridgewood Talks and Ridgewood Walks. The goal of these initiatives is to create a kinder, more connected, and more vibrant community. I'm thrilled to be hosting this podcast with my good friend and all-around wonderful guy, Jordan Kaufman. We look forward to meeting with you weekly and hearing your thoughts on who and what you'd like to learn about in our beautiful hometown. For now, be kind, do good, and enjoy this episode. Here we go. Hi, I'm Jeanne Johnson, and welcome to Ridgewood Talks. Today, we are thrilled to shine a spotlight on someone who has helped shape the creative heartbeat of our schools, and that's Chris McCullough. He is the District Supervisor of Visual and Performing Arts for Ridgewood Public Schools. And Chris is not only a proud Ridgewood High School alum, he is the class of 1993, but he's also been a driving force behind the district's K-12 art, music, and dance program since 2010. But before stepping into this leadership role, Chris spent a decade at Ridgewood High School inspiring students in everything from architecture to photography to AP studio art. He is a graduate of Syracuse University and Fairleigh Dickinson, where he got his master's, and he has brought both vision and action to Ridgewood, spearheading initiatives like the RHS Makerspace that many of you know of, and the recording studio at Ridgewood High School. And beyond that, he has been playing a key role in teacher development and strategic planning. But his impact goes way beyond the classroom. He is a coach and he is involved in a lot of community events. Chris is deeply woven into the fabric of Ridgewood life, and we're excited to sit down with him today to talk about the role of the arts in education, the power of creative spaces, and what it means to grow up and give back in the place that you call home. So let's get started. Thank you so much, Chris, for being here. I can't even tell you how excited I am to talk to you because in our pre-interview, I suggested that you tell our audience about all the nuts and bolts of your program and what's going on at all the schools. And you know what? I was really struck that you wanted to take the conversation to a deeper and more meaningful level to talk about what the arts impact can be on society. So that said, I can't wait to dig in. And so let's start there. You've been leading Ridgewood's Visual and Performing Arts program for over a decade. And I want to know, how have you seen the role of the arts evolve in that time?
All right. Well, first off, thank you for having me here. The accolades feel, a little bit overwhelming.
But they're well deserved.
Well, thank you. So, it's a wonderful question. I guess I would have to back up a little bit. When I was growing up, and certainly when I was a student at Ridgewood High School, the art department was a major safe spot, a place of connection and family, where I felt successful. I had teachers I really connected with, so it was one of the reasons why going to school was, a positive place. Mm-hmm. And clearly it impacted, what I did post Ridgewood High School. So I was not on the teacher pathway.
Really?
No. So I went to Syracuse to study. Well, I went there as an art student. Freshman year is just you apply as an art student, and I really didn't have a predetermined path. Actually, your freshman year, I was just and I chuckle. I was just back there at the Syracuse campus. We were on a family trip to a swim meet and past Syracuse University on the way home. So we stopped.
Oh yeah, of course. You got to do that.
Yeah. Well, my kids were not super thrilled about it. Yeah.
How old are your kids?
So I have two kids. Carter's 12, and my daughter Claire is 10.
Okay. So yeah, they're really not even thinking. They were not. But getting them on that campus had to feel really good for you.
It felt really good for me. They were excited about going to the university bookstore and getting some merchandise,
Oh, yeah, of course.
and then getting home.
Yeah.
As I was like, we did this over here, and then we did this over here. They were like, yeah, okay. But when I went to school, you apply as an art major. I didn't really know what I was going to do. Your freshman year, all the different programs present to you. It was actually in like the art history class lecture hall, so all these different programs came in and presented. And I was intrigued with a couple of them. And then I ended up landing in industrial design. And then that was just like, oh, I'll just give this a try. I ended up loving it. To sort of I wasn't at that time. It's a 5-year program, and when I chose it, I don't think I really knew that.
You're like, okay, I really like this,
Yeah.
but how much do I really like it? Yeah.
And again, in retrospect and looking back at it, like I loved my time in school.
Oh, that's awesome.
So when I graduated, I went and worked at a design studio, but I was living at home in Ridgewood, and I had these connections to teachers at Ridgewood High School, and so I was back. I was involved in like a camping club when I was a student there.
Alps?
Alps.
Yeah. Oh, God, great program.
Yeah. So I was there sort of, I was in Alps as a student, and then got to go on these trips.
Awesome.
And I had done stuff at college that was, I was an RA one summer, and I worked as a camp counselor, so I always had these like
you knew
summer
you had
jobs.
that leadership in you.
Yeah, and I liked working with kids, and I liked teaching. And then there was a position that opened up at the high school, and I knew about it because of the teachers that I had stayed in touch with. And I guess the rest is history, right? So I got a.
And then you just got in there.
I just got in there, and I started teaching.
You've made a really big impact there. And Ridgewood, I love this community because we have such a strong tradition in the arts, and we are such a supportive community. By the way, I just wanted to mention, I don't know if you know this, but our village manager was an art history major from Syracuse also. So you and Keith Kasmark might have been classmates.
Right.
You don't even know.
Right.
So having said that, saying that all of these teachers have had an impact on you, why do you think that this community is so supportive of creative expression? I mean, what is it about us? I mean, here we are. We're arguably the most well-educated community in the world, one of, right? But yet we still have such an emphasis. And I don't know if you know this, but when people started moving here to this bucolic community, 100 years ago, before they even had a grocery store, they had a library and a playhouse. So I don't know, what is it that we nurture that? What do you think about that?
I mean, I wouldn't say, it would be hard for me to put my finger on to say, this is the reason why. To me, the thing that's always struck me about Ridgewood is an appreciation for being strong in a broad range of things.
Right.
So we have, and building capacity so that you can do lots of different things. So some school systems, it's difficult if you are an athletic kid.
Right.
It's hard to also be a music kid.
Right.
But the way that Ridgewood structures when we have our ensemble rehearsals, when we have our concerts, when athletic events are, we really try to, and that's just an example, right? So like there's a really conscious effort to not put everything that happens all in the same time, so that our students can do lots of different things.
Right. And to not pigeonhole them into one area, right?
So I think that that's one of the reasons, because Ridgewood is strong in lots of things, and I think values the holistic nature of that, versus saying we are this narrow. We produce strong academic students only. We produce we're a school that focuses on athletics.
But our theater department is the Ridgewood Public Schools theater department is just, it's phenomenal. I can't get over it. So what do you think the elements are there that make those students so capable and creative and wonderful? Right.
So I think that their holistic capacity, their ability to be strong in lots of different things, enables all of our programs, because the kids are really talented, but they're not singularly talented.
Right.
So as a group, they can accomplish really impressive things because they have a vast array of skills. So, time management, memorizing your lines, improvising, these would be sort of examples. And those are sort of music theater examples. But in the arts world as well, right, that they have an understanding of global events and societal elements. They have a real strong capacity for articulating their thoughts because those skills have been developed, in the classroom and at home and with their coaches.
Well, and I got to say that too. I think one of the things that is unique to this community, my husband and I have lived all around the country, and while my kids were little when we were moving, when we came to Ridgewood, I have to say that it is such a supportive community. The parents are supportive of everyone's kid. Like, we're raising each other's kids here. It really is. I know that that's such a cliche. It takes a village, but we really do. When we see our kids' friends succeeding, when we see our neighbors succeeding, we're in it. We're all in it together, which I really, really love.
Right, and I think that that's also one of, and it's one of the things I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, that we're able to do a lot of the things that we do because of parent support.
Right.
If you've ever been to a marching band competition,
unbelievable.
We can't pull that off without parents.
Oh God, the energy, everything.
Of unloading the truck and moving the things. And
by the way, not even just the parents, it's like the community support, because I remember there was a huge endowment. I know it was one of the performers there, but their dad was really a huge financial support through his company. And I know that happens with a lot of things in this town. And, I have to say, so you grew up here, you graduated high school here, and you came back here. So, there's something really special about this town to you. What would you say really drew you back to Ridgewood?
Well, I would say that I'm not an anomaly in that scenario.
No, not even at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Personally, and obviously it's hard to speak for the other people that have done that. I'm at the high school. I work in all the buildings, but as a high school, I started out teaching at the high school. There's a handful of people who were students and now back. So for me, I guess it was really, number one, I would point to the teachers that I had. So I maintained connections, so that when I was home for, Thanksgiving, I stopped in and say hi.
Yeah.
And they always, sort of welcomed me back into that space. My parents were still here at the time. And it was also a place that, I felt was special.
Yeah.
It just
is. It just is, period. If you know, you know.
Yeah, and it was a place that I felt really supported.
Yeah, for sure.
And a place that I could also, I got pushed, to try and do challenging things, but I also had a lot of support along the way.
So I want to talk a little bit about that too, because we interviewed Mark Schwartz recently, and we discussed the plight of the modern student. And we're COVID had to have done quite a number on the schools. I know it did. And so we're living at a time when many people, especially young people, feel isolated and anxious or overwhelmed. And so I know that art and music can really play an important role in helping students in that capacity. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's fun. I get to go. One of the things that I really like about my job is I get a little bit of the behind the scenes tour, right? So, we do a lot of community events, right? It's part of the nature of what we do.
Talk a little bit more about that. Go into what the community events are.
Well, it's just art shows, dance concerts,
right.
music events, but those are predominantly finalized. That's a finished product,
right.
That we're showcasing. So
you get to go behind
I get
the
to go
scenes.
see the process that occurs.
Yeah.
And I get to see, I guess I'll call it sort of the humanity of all of that process, right? So because when we, it's a choir concert as an example, right? We're presenting, we're trying to have a finished product. I get to see some of the silly, right? I get to see some of the fun and the
blooper reel.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the things I really enjoy about my job. And then it's also really interesting that I think that sometimes I try to reflect upon. It's not uncommon that I will be, particularly this time of year,
Oh yeah,
as we
it's
come to
so
the end of
busy.
school year,
Yeah.
that I could be at an elementary school concert, a middle school concert, and a high school concert. I mean, potentially in the same day or back-to-back days, right? So I get to see, and I sometimes talk to parents about this, right? Like I get to see your kid grow up in one day.
Yeah.
Right? Like I get to see this whole thing where, you know,
it's like a time warp.
Yeah. So where the concert at the elementary school is not obviously as polished or robust that it is at the middle school, that it is at the high school. So I get to see these things sort of back to back to back, and see how the developmental process, like, and all those things sort of build upon each other and have these kids grow. And I get to see their artwork, at these various levels too, right? So I can go to an elementary art show, see artwork at the middle school and see it at the high school again. I mean, often in the same day, right? I mean, in multiple buildings on the same day. So, I mean, to try and get back to your question, you talked a little bit like, why are these special spaces in the school day? One, they just function quite differently than a lot of other spaces, right? Like, I touched base on the choir classroom. All of the music courses, I mean, potentially all of them, like there's some exceptions, but they are group format, right? Like they function in a group,
which is a
pretty different, than another space.
Yeah.
And even in the art room, where I'm doing my painting and you're doing your painting, our work and our process is very on display. So
there's got to be some confidence that comes through that. Yeah.
Yeah, and some connection too, right? Because if I make a mistake, you made a mistake yesterday.
Yeah.
So and we made that, and this is one of the things that we were able to chat about earlier is those mistakes are public, and it's one of the things I think that make these spaces really powerful. Is that failure or growth mindset is sort of baked in to these programs in a way that's different, and failure feels very different. And I tell this story a lot to teachers. I was in a high school choir class and a middle school band class. It was the same day or back to back. And I remember the choir class started with the teacher who was like, let's make a lot of mistakes today.
Oh, I love that.
Let's make a lot of mistakes. Because making those mistakes enables us to address them and to fix them, right?
Yeah.
And then I was in a band room, like I said, it was like that afternoon or the next day, and the teacher said something along the lines of, you guys are playing a lot of stuff wrong, but you're playing it loud, and that's great, because I can hear what we need to work on.
Oh, yeah.
So this hesitancy about making mistakes,
it's sort of celebrated.
It's celebrated,
Yeah.
And again,
And there's no shame attached to it.
No, and sometimes those are avenues, like in the art room. There's this book, I see it in the elementary classrooms a lot. It's called Beautiful Oops or something along those lines. It's about making mistakes, or the coffee spilling, or paint dripping, and sort of embracing those to help your artwork evolve or go somewhere that you weren't anticipating. And so I think that's one of the, to your point of like, why are these courses important? I think that they expose, and we are able to engage with failure and mistakes.
And see that everybody fails.
Yeah. And a lot of this stuff is you're also quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
That you're creating a painting where you're trying to express some emotion, and it might be personal to you, or again, you're in the choir classroom, and your voice is your instrument, and you sing the wrong note, or your voice cracks, or but those would be boundaries or things that would intimidate, but we have to push through those. Right?
Well, because then that teaches resilience.
Absolutely.
And it teaches the other students to be supportive of somebody who is kind of tripping.
Right. There's like a level of empathy.
Yeah.
That like, I'm not going to make fun of you for your voice cracking, because my voice is going to crack like tomorrow, or it cracked yesterday.
Right.
And so we're all in this together. I sang the wrong note. I missed something. my artwork didn't come out as good as I thought it was going to be.
I love this conversation. It's so important.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I know that Ridgewood Public Schools, I think we start, and is it third grade? Everybody has to play the recorder. So that's
fourth grade is the recorder.
Fourth grade.
Yeah,
right. And then I think you're required to take an instrument in fourth and fifth grade, right? And then it's a choice.
Well, so recorder in fourth grade. It's actually a choice in fifth grade. Instrumental part starts in fifth grade, and when I say choice, I would say 99.9% of the students participate in the instrumental program. So they start that in fifth grade, and then when we move to sixth grade, they continue art in sixth grade, and then in the music side of things, they need to pick a band, choir, or orchestra, and then obviously those programs continue all the way up.
Yeah. So I love that is a requirement, and I think I just don't know how to put my finger on how to help these kids who have kind of slipped through the cracks through their engagement in social media. This is a real problem, obviously.
Right.
Everybody's talking about it. So I just want to touch on that for 1 second. What is the policy at Ridgewood Public Schools for cell phone use now? I don't even know if you're the right person to talk to about this.
Well, I mean, I'm not the person who designed it, but I can tell you about how it's been, implemented. And this year, in particular, at the high school, there's been a concerted effort that students are going to put in most classrooms. I want to back up. In every classroom, cell phones are put somewhere.
Okay, good.
In most classrooms, there's like a caddy, like
right.
a little thing you put it in. You enter the room. And I think that that's been a really profound shift, that students can put that away, can connect with one another, and don't feel that pull to like, I should probably check, or what's going on. And that pulls their mind away from where we are and what we're doing. And so I think that it's made a really a strong impact in the schools. And I think it's one of the things, again, we chatted about this a little bit before too, and I really think that with all these sort of pressures and social media influencing, and what am I supposed to be and what am I supposed to look like, all of those sort of pressures, I'm super biased, right? But I think that the arts spaces are a place that push back against that. I think in a really robust and profound way.
And I can't thank you enough for that, because I know there are some parent groups. I don't even know if it's parent groups, but there are a handful of parents. There's a couple of Board of Education members that really want to put more of an emphasis on the STEM programs and testing benchmarks. And I really think that, well, I'm going to ask you this: how do you advocate for the arts as an essential and well-rounded approach to education?
Right. I think it's a great question. I think that they both support each other, and this sort of like leads to, or references what I was talking about before.
Okay.
Right. Like that. And I'll use me as an example. Right. So I went to study industrial design. A big part of that was iterating. Right. Building it, testing it, building it, testing it, thinking it through, putting it in the hands of a consumer or a user, finding out how they're going to use it was differently than how you thought you were going to use it, and sort of going through that round and round and round and round, and not being afraid, or really embracing the process, right? Like that, to get to a strong conclusion, there's an arc of things that you have to move through. If you don't build up a capacity for enjoying that process, and for understanding that thinking creatively, getting feedback, giving, we've talked a lot about this in the classroom, the ability to give, receive feedback, ability to synthesize that feedback and to set goals for where you want to go. Those are critical skills. And I think that those are skills that we're able to touch on and get closer to in the arts room, really, again, because of sort of this group mentality is a big part of, obviously more so on the music, dance, theater side of things. But this that this is a process that we're going through, and it's a growth mindset, right? That there's not this fixed that I need to be good at this right away. We talk a lot about you brought up the instrumental program. So fifth grade instrumental is one of the sort of like shining examples of, at the beginning of fifth grade, we give you an instrument that you don't know how to put together, right? Like you don't know anything. About
even just putting it together is something. Yeah.
And one of the teachers, talks to the parents about this a lot. So then we have this, we call it a demonstration, sort of in the wintertime. And we talk about sort of what the students are doing. So they have this sheet of music in front of them with hieroglyphics, essentially.
That's amazing.
Right? They're playing an instrument that just a couple months ago they took out of the box. They didn't even know
how to say.
Right?
Yeah, right.
They didn't know how to say it. They didn't know how to put it together. They didn't know how to make a sound on it.
It's amazing.
And they have to think about playing the right notes at the right time. So I have to think about like how I'm sitting and how I'm breathing, the shape of my mouth, right? I need to do all that. I also need to listen, because I have to listen to the whole group.
And
I got to watch the conductor, right, to keep all this together. So there's a lot going on. So the tangible evidence of growth is profound, right? Because you go from zero to we can play some recognizable tunes in December, January. That's when
it's actually remarkable when you break it down like this,
right? And then the end of the school year, we play. They play a piece of music that's recognizable. And so I think that really helps establish and showcase, if you put the time in and you do the work and you understand that there's setbacks and things that are not going to be easy. Like one note is really easy for you to play, but the next note is really, really hard. And the person next to you is also going through these same challenges, although maybe in a different way, right? Because I'm playing the trumpet and you're playing, the tuba.
Yeah.
Or you're playing the flute, right? So things are easier for you in this range or this scale, but for me, these are really hard.
Right.
And we're buddies, and we're in the same school. We've gone to school together for 6 years, and you can do it. Nice job, because the tables are reversed. The next day. So to speak.
Did you play an instrument when you were growing
up?
up? No.
No. I was an art kid.
Yeah. So you were okay. Gotcha. All right. So one of the stories that I heard just yesterday, actually, Eric Santoli. A lot of our listeners are probably familiar with him. Right. He's a wonderful artist. There's so much to learn about Eric. Go to his website, ericsantoli.com, I believe it is. And he was born and raised in Ridgewood, right. And he was a sports kid. He was not really that interested in art. And I think he said it was senior year, he took an art class and he fell in love with it. And the next thing you know, he went to UPenn. Mm-hmm. He got an artist in residency at Monet, like in France. And this kid is he's now got a TV show coming up, and it's all about art. And I don't know if you see him, but he's got his little handlebar mustache. Yeah. And he's one of those kids that keeps coming back to visit the school. Yeah. And all of his old art teachers too. So it's pretty cool that that art can become a career in both your case and in Eric's case and many others too. So what would you say to parents who think music or art is just a hobby and not something worth pursuing seriously? What would you say to them?
Well, I think it sort of circles back.
We were just talking with our producer too, how he has a brainiac kid, but she's also super talented in the music department. So,
I mean, we talk a lot about inside of our department that the vast majority of our arts students or the arts graduates are likely not pursuing that as their focal point, right? So, out of a graduating class of 425-ish, something like that. There's a good percentage, of students, like a huge percentage of those students who have been in our music, theater, dance, art program. Most of them are not going to major in music, right? Certainly some of them are, and I think that we've prepared them really well for that. But the vast majority are going to go pursue science or whatever it happens to be.
Finance, whatever.
So I think the question is like, why should they take an arts class, at Ridgewood High School? What value does that bring if I'm going to go pursue science or whatever it is. And I think that the answer is significant. And sort of to that point of failure, of growth mindset, of teamwork.
Right.
If you look at, and again, this is stuff that I enjoy, is businesses talking about like what sort of skills are they looking for.
Oh, I know. It's changed so much now. They
Right.
want more of those soft skills, right? Yeah.
Right. And I would say, that term soft skills, part of me pushes it back against that.
Tell me why.
Because it makes it sound like they're secondary soft
that's
skills.
Interesting. That's interesting.
When I think about them as being like paramount.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. When I think of soft skills, I think of approachable.
Yeah.
Hard skills to me, I'm like, oh boy, I don't know, they're intimidating to me. Soft skills are more approachable.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that like, grit, perseverance,
Okay.
the ability to work in a team, the ability to have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Those are like they fall under the
paramount,
umbrella
right.
of soft skills. And I think that those are things that are developed in all over the place. I mean, if you're in an athletic program,
Sure.
you're building those capacities.
Yeah.
You're on a debate team.
Right.
You're building those capacities. You love writing and history.
Right.
You can develop those things. So I don't think that there's a single avenue. I just think that those capacities are particularly accessible inside of the arts realm, because there's a level of vulnerability, because sort of what we've already talked about, like this failure rich, and because failure is it's just baked in to the process, it enables us to move past that as being something to be afraid of, and in some regards something to be celebrated, right?
Right.
Like I can get somewhere new or different. I know that that's not going to be a straight line. I know that the first time I do it, it's not going to be good.
Right.
I know that I can ask other people for some feedback on how do I do this, and they might have a different take and a different way of looking at it. And if I can hear that and not get my bristles up,
Right.
That you're telling me, oh, I don't love the background of this. And if I can,
just a
if
suggestion. It's
right,
not
and
the
if
end
I
of the
can
world.
hear
Yeah.
what you're saying and being like, oh, that's interesting, or what she's saying about the background. She suggested adding more vibrant colors. I don't really want to add more vibrant colors, but I do want to add some more contrast. I would not have thought about that if you had not
Somebody's
said it,
giving some feedback.
and if I was instantly like, no,
Yeah.
defensive.
I like it just the way it is. If you don't like it,
Right.
that's your problem, kind of thing. Yeah.
It wouldn't have gotten somewhere. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is working with other people and bringing ideas to the table, but then having those ideas go somewhere
I totally
that I
agree with you.
wasn't predetermined.
Yes.
And so you have to let go a little bit of.
Oh my
the
gosh.
ownership
And
of
when
that.
you do that, so many great ideas can come. So you and I talked about this too. So I'm spearheading something in Ridgewood called Outside
Right.
Air, and the acronym is Art Initiative Ridgewood. So we're trying to get some art installations out in Ridgewood, some murals, things like that. And, so I had this idea and I brought it to a couple of people, and everybody was like, oh, yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. And it is. I mean, there are a lot of really great things, and someday we'll do a podcast just dedicated to that.
Right.
But it's scary, sure, it's great ideas. So I had a meeting last night, and about, I don't know, maybe a dozen more new people came to the table, and the ideas, oh my gosh, the conversations that were coming in, and how they were expounding on the little seed that I planted, and now they watered it, and there's going to be some remarkable things that are happening in Ridgewood as a result of just being open to collaboration and open to feedback. So I think that's really, really important. And speaking of that, now let's turn over to the Makerspace, because that's a community thing. Tell us what Makerspace is.
So the Makerspace, and I'm going to lump in there the TV studio, recording studio.
Sure, yeah,
Because I just feel that they do a lot of the same things.
Okay.
So on one sort of side of the coin, they expose students to technology and equipment It's 21st century. They might run
State of the art.
they might run into it a podcasting
Yes.
place. They can leave Ridgewood High School knowing what kind of microphone
Right.
should we use.
Some really solid skills.
What kind
Yeah.
of camera is the appropriate.
I'm just going to pause there for 1 second because for those of you who have listened to this podcast over the years, we've had a couple of iterations of our opening, and this particular opening that you have heard for the last, year and a half was recorded at the Ridgewood High School studio. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, John Lookabill.
Yeah.
Lookabill.
Lookabill. Yeah. He's an amazing teacher.
He's just an amazing person
guy.
all the way around. So anyway, go on back to the.
Well, so like we were saying on sort of like this one side, it's technical exposure, right? Here are these machines and capacities, and software that if you know how to do these things and you understand how these systems work, if you know how a 3D printer works, you know how a laser cutter works, a CNC machine. If you understand that those are out there in the workforce and that those are, you can scale up those ideas, right?
Well, and also you can master those ideas right here in the high school. Like
Right.
one of the kids that I met that helped mix the sound for our opening, he ended up going straight to Broadway to work the soundboard on Broadway. He was able to jump his career right from Ridgewood High School. He didn't have to go to any other kind of technical school. He got that job, and off he is in the union and ready to roll.
Right. So I think that there's sort of like that channel, that side of the coin of like exposure to these capacities, these skills. The part that I really like both sides. The part that I think where sort of the magic happens is, and we got really lucky on where these spaces happen to be in the building. We didn't really move them. So the TV studio has been
right there.
Been there for a long, long time, and it is at the intersection of our music rooms. And I don't think that was an intentional. It used to be a science lab. I think, like if you look on the floor, it actually has marks where the whole wall would spin. You remember? I mean, this was before.
I don't remember. Yeah.
You had like the science lab all set up, and you would spin the whole wall.
Get out of here! I never knew that.
It's not a science lab anymore.
Yeah.
So this
I want to ask you really quickly. Was it Guy Benson that was sort of instrumental with the Ridgewood recording, the TV studio?
I mean, I guess the answer to the question is yes and no, right? Like, we had some students who were just forces of nature. Yeah. And showcased how this is an avenue that we should leverage and exploit. Like, kids are into this. And this is you can get a job. This can be a profession.
But that's what I had heard. So Guy Benson is a political strategist, and he's on Fox News now. I think he has his own podcast, maybe radio show, whatever. But I remember hearing the story because I was friends with his mom, that he was calling baseball games out in Cape Cod when he was like 7 years old. Right. And then he managed to get to Ridgewood High School, and he was like, wait a second, why isn't there a TV studio here? Something like that. I don't know.
So the TV studio has been at this spot, and we were sort of talking before the show started. It was a very traditional space we've since upgraded it, but that was one of the big things. So it had some older cameras.
By the way, and that was through the Duffield grant.
Yeah, Ridgewood Education Foundation was first. That really helped upgrade our audio side. And then with the Duffield donation, we had this situation, again, we were talking about this before the show started, that we had a digital audio side and an analog TV side, and they didn't really talk to each other very well. So that made some of the logistical things challenging. But those have since been upgraded. But like I was saying, that where these spaces are located, so the TV studio, recording studio is, across the hall, essentially, from where the band, choir, orchestra rooms are. And then the Makerspace
is right around the corner.
Is down the way a little bit. It was essentially a storage closet, but it happens to be where our sort of graphics, architecture, building design courses are. But then right above them are science and math, and it's in a pretty central hallway. So to me, one of the things that's been really sort of magical is the intersection of students and skills that happen in those spaces. So a really great example of that is, so we have TV courses and music technology courses, and lots and lots of other types of courses. But John Luck and Bill, one of sort of our ideas that we wanted to do, if you've ever seen like the Tiny Desk concerts on NPR.
I love it so much.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were like, hey, let's try and we have these talents.
Right. That'd be so cool.
So they've
So
done.
listeners, if you're not familiar, is NPR has Tiny Desk concerts, and they and it's literally like this studio,
Right.
and they do a concert. They don't bring in all their fancy equipment or all
Right.
their fancy instruments. They just kind of improvise. So you guys want to do that?
Well, so we've done a couple of them.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, for I don't know, 3-4 years. And what has been so fun is the intersection of students. So as an example, it's very similar to this, right? So we've got a TV crew, audio crew, and the talent.
Right.
Those students don't necessarily interact with each other
On a given
day-to-day,
day. Yeah. Right.
But here they are in the studio working together to create this product. And it's a product that's pretty good. And again, that's one of the things I really like about this space, right? We have our musical kids are really pretty good.
More than pretty good.
Yeah.
They're outstanding.
Right. And to talk a little bit about their capacity of pulling this off, right? When we talked about their skills, they're not singularly defined.
Right.
Right. So produce a Tiny Desk concert is not an easy lift.
I'm sure
right.
not.
And that to do that, you need lots of people with lots of different skills.
And open minds too.
Right. And that it's not going to go perfectly the first time that we do it. So in the studio are the musical kids, are our TV kids, and our audio kids, and they have to all work together in kind of I call it a pressure situation, right? We don't have endless time to do this.
Yeah.
We got to make this happen. We only have so many takes that we get to do this. And then we get to produce a product and we put it out there.
So when you put it out there, where do you put it out there?
So it's gone to a couple places, and that's a place that I think it's exciting for us to sort of explore and leverage a little bit more. So we the arts department, create a fair amount of content that essentially is intended to be received by an audience, right? Be that a painting or a dance performance or a Tiny Desk concert.
Yeah.
So looking for ways for us to leverage and showcase that.
Well, hello.
Right.
Here you are on Ridgewood Talks.
Right.
Perhaps there's a way for us to incorporate that into this actual podcast. We don't know.
So
Maybe
those are I think areas that are we've dabbled in that a little bit, so we can push it to YouTube. SoundCloud, like again, we were chatting a little bit earlier. Students are producing their own albums.
That's amazing.
And pushing them out. You can purchase them, so you can go to Spotify or iTunes, and purchase their albums that they've produced. So we've dabbled into that realm. Schools, that's not our bread and butter, right? Of like.
But isn't it so great that students have that opportunity? And by the way, it's not just for students. Let's talk about that too, because there are opportunities for just the community at large. If you have something that you want to do, just like me, when I was able to go in there and record the opening, I think you're a little bit open to certain projects for the community too. And the Makerspace also allows other community members to go in.
It had in the past.
Okay, so that's changed now. Sorry.
Well, it's some of it's a little tricky. The recording studio is a space that it really lends itself to engaging with talent or people who are looking to leverage the space. And I was just talking to John Luck and Bill, and I was telling him I was doing this thing. And he was talking about how they have, it's a voiceover person who is working with a studio out in, I think it's LA.
Wow.
But they are on the East Coast.
That's
so they're coming
incredible.
in to do voice work in the recording studio, and then they're going to send the files over. So pretty fun. We're going to have like a sort of a professional actor come in and
I love that.
do some voice stuff. And
that has to get some marketing around that.
Right,
So
right.
we can hang that on our Ridgewood hat. Yeah.
So the recording studio, there's a club, and they meet
Yeah.
after school. So there's the capacity for booking your session. You can go on the website and book a session.
And these kids are really, I mean, I've watched them in action, and they're really, really super committed to that.
Yeah, and it's a great, again, wonderful learning experience.
So what happened with the Makerspace? What happened where outsiders are not allowed in now? Or
Well, so one is like schools, our main functioning period is, from 8 until 3:30, and we're pretty busy with a whole lot of kids and teachers during that time period. And at the end of that, teachers go off and do
their thing,
do lots of different things.
Yeah. Ninth period, they do tutoring. They got to go home with their family, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's not that.
So there's sort of that component of it, and then there's also just there's the safety side of things. Like,
I got you.
Pretty tricky to hurt yourself on a microphone.
Yeah.
In the shop, there's tools. You got to know how to use them. You got to use the right materials to use them.
But I love that the students get to have exposure to that, because I think that's, again, I think, we're learning more and more about it. I'm working with Jim Stroker on a couple of things right now, and we're learning more and more about how we have sort of tried to fit round square pegs in a round hole kind of thing, and making sure that everybody goes to college. And sometimes, everybody isn't college material. So if they get exposed to things like in the Makerspace, and they can, use that part of who they are to build a career, I think that is kind of a cool thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I think one of the things that's been so powerful about it is the ability for kids with different skills or different passions to connect and help each other. And so that happens in the Makerspace too, right?
I also want to talk about how when the kids do things. Well, one thing I read when I was preparing for this interview, I saw it, and it was so great. It said, if you are in need of hiring somebody that can do everything, hire a theater kid. Because even if they don't know what you're talking about, they will fake it.
Right.
They have a work ethic unlike anything that you've ever known. They will they can turn nothing into something, because that's just how that's what the theater kids are taught to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool that they're learning all of those improvising skills. Is that what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
All right, so the kids make a lot of things. There are a lot of dance recitals and art shows and concerts and things like that. And I know you use West Side Presbyterian because the acoustics in that building are so phenomenal.
Yeah.
So right now there's a lot going on. Tell us a little bit about what's happening at each school. I know it's a lot.
Right. So, I mean, this time of year ends up being, a celebratory events. I mean, all over the place, right? So every elementary school is, typically has an end of the year art show. Probably has multiple concerts, because they have the third grade concert, the fourth grade concert, and the fifth grade concert.
Right.
Some of those are combined. Some of them are standalone. So those are happening at every elementary school. Last night I was at GW for their 7th, 8th grade orchestra concert.
Wow.
The band, RHS Band, is opening up the band shell.
That's right.
They open that the first Thursday of
Is
June.
Is that through Artbeat? Are they still doing it through Artbeat?
No, I mean, like Artbeat, at least in my understanding of it, that's a student organizational event. They open the band shell in conjunction with the town, with the village.
Right. Okay.
So like there's end of the year music, art, dance, theater, all the time. You could come every night.
Yeah, I am sure about that. Yeah. So for people that are interested in looking at some of the pieces of art that are created through Ridgewood Public Schools, I know my kids it was a real honor to have their work selected and have it be exhibited at the Ed Center.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we put artwork up at the Ed Center really through a couple of different ways. One, if you go to the the Ed Center and you go up the hallways or to somebody's offices, there's likely
go through the staircase, the stairwell.
Right. So all the artwork that's in there gets changed out every year.
Is it every year or is it a couple times a year?
The framed artwork is once a year.
Okay.
And then typically on the third floor, there's sort of like that atrium space.
Right.
We do a couple of shows.
That's right.
Over the course of the year. And I think the one that you might be talking about is Youth Art Month, which is our big we set up even more panels.
Right. Yeah, because it's
and
kind
we
of little,
host like a
little
reception.
maze. Yes, it's beautiful.
Right,
It's
so that-
really beautiful. And even if your kid's art isn't in there, definitely go. I've gone many years just to support those kids, because, and by the way, just to see how capable and talented these kids are.
Right. Yeah. It's we all sort of enjoy and appreciate the fact that we get to showcase the work at that building right across the way.
You have such a fun job.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. What is the best part about your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I alluded to this earlier. I think it's so I'm kind of a behind the scenes guy, and what I mean by that is I'm not. My job is to support students and support teachers, right? So I stand at the back of the room at the concerts. I get to go, like I said, into these classrooms. And I think probably every teacher, for me, the classroom, that's a special place, right? Like some magic happens in there, day in and day out with these kids. And the kids are great kids. I mean, that's another advantage. I mean, it's a huge part of why our programs are successful. They're great kids. So my favorite part of my job is in the art room where the kids are coming in, the bell hasn't rung yet, and they've got their stuff out and they're working. Because they want to be there. Or it's a free period. This is another one, like when we have schools come to visit and we walk them around, and we'll pop into a classroom, an art studio, and there's 5 kids in there working, and they're like, oh, what class is this? I'm like, oh, it's not a class. This is a free period. They're in here working, and they're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The end of like a choir class where the kids leave the room singing, and like that's super fun. So getting to see,
there's just a lot of joy.
Yeah. So like those are. I mean, I like obviously the big celebratory event, and like I said, I was at GW last night, and they did. They put their entire 7th grade orchestra, their entire 8th grade orchestra, and their a cappella group that's called the Herd, and they have like a rock band, GW Rockington, and they put all of those kids on the stage. And when I say not on the stage, they don't fit on the stage, and they did a big combined performance.
That's really cool.
And it can make your hair stand up.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are pretty fun too. I don't want to say that the big performances at the end are not celebratory. West Side, is an example of, they program music. They pick music that leverages that space. So the acoustics that just carry and carry and carry.
So listeners, if you have not been to a concert at West Side, you must make your way over there, because it's phenomenal. And it's especially, like you said, it is goosebump worthy when you know that there are high school students that are performing there. Yeah.
You would. I mean, it's amazing. The kids are really, and that, the teachers are so good, the kids are so good. And then,
it's when during COVID we had the whole pedestrian plaza, and we had music in the night and things like that, and so I was kind of involved in booking those bands, and there were so many student bands that just were equal to or surpassed the adults that were performing, and they were all just Ridgewood High School students. Just amazing. Yeah,
this is like the culture, that I talk about this one too a lot. So we have a dance program at the high school and a dance studio. I mean, again, that's one of the things, like our facilities, we have a lot of capacity to do things because we have a dance studio or a makerspace or a recording studio. But this, again, is the space where, like, it blows my mind pretty consistently as being a space I would be terrified to operate in. It's mixed students. They're not all friends. There's mixed ability. They learn some, sort of dance basics. You have to dance one course. And then they have kids that choreograph a dance. And I'm going to be the choreographer, and I'm working with you, and we're not super close friends.
Right.
And we're gonna teach you this, and then we're gonna put it on stage.
Yeah. And
we're gonna have an audience that's gonna come. And you would think that that terrifies me, right? That would be
Right.
like an example of like, oh my gosh, no way. But you go to this concert, the Little Theater is packed.
Oh, every time. Yeah.
So it's packed with kids. And again, the students that are at the end of dance one, these are not trained dancers who've been dancing since they've been 2. It's kids who like to be together and like to dance and like to express themselves that way and like to move. And they put on this performance in front of an audience of a student choreographed piece. That's
It's incredible.
And the support that's in that room.
But I have to say, too, Chris, this is a testament to you and the program that you have created for these students. We are so lucky in this district to have you and someone who gets this excited about your job, and the people that you have collected, all of the teachers that you have been instrumental in helping hire. I mean, you get to have a lot of credit for this. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for our students and our community, because, I mean, it really spills over into the entire community. So thank you.
Sure. You're welcome. The heavy lifting, I don't think is I want to. The people that I want to celebrate are the teachers, the kids. I help sort of.
You're
keep things
orchestrating it.
Yeah,
though.
sure. But the work that these kids do, the work that the parents do, the work that these teachers do. So I talked about the concert that was last night. It's wrapping up. I'm going to drive home. All the teachers are breaking down the stage, and the kids are helping to, pack up and do all that. There's a marching band event.
But
We got to load the truck up and.
You I get it, and but it's just the culture that has been created from leadership at Ridgewood Public Schools. So you get to take a little pat on the back. Just own it.
Sure, I could. I don't know if I'm going to own that. I think that I stepped into something that was really strong.
And you've maintained it.
We've maintained that, and I also think that there's, and we alluded to, the dance concert is sort of this good example, but it's everywhere, right? Is that in that audience are kids who are in every sort of discipline, right? So there's the athlete is in there, the academic kid is in there, so the audience and the community is super supportive of everything that the Ridgewood is doing, right? So if you go to an event, and that's one of the things I think is really unique about the school, right? And like I said, that there's some schools that they don't have that kind of cross-curricular buy-in because their school logistical setup hinders some of those things. So like, for example, like the largest public school in Bergen County.
Right, that's us.
We have one lunch block. That's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Right. So unit lunch is a lot of action.
Oh yeah.
Right. Many schools do multiple lunch blocks. Having unit lunch enables a lot of these things to happen because we can put all these kids together and these teachers together during this common time.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Or even when, our small ensembles rehearsals are. They're not right after school, right? Because kids might be doing athletics.
Right.
So there's an intent and a design to enable kids to do lots of different things.
So interesting.
And so I think that when we have these events, that the audience that's there is not also a single type of person.
Right.
And so I think that's I think one of the things that's unique about the school and the community and the culture is that an array of offerings, an array of appreciation is built in.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So is there anything like that's coming up now for the next school year that you're super excited about? Anything new, or are you just going to try and maintain what you've got going? Because what you have is, like I said, very successful.
I mean, I think the things that we as a department talk a lot about is trying to connect programs and students vertically. And what I mean by that is multi-grade levels doing something together.
I love that idea,
So that's
some mentoring and some,
or even, a concert is a really easy example. You can do it on the art side as well, or on on any of these avenues, right? But typically because of logistics, right? Like things tend to be grade band organized. So if you're trying to involve, so like last year, again, an example, and we've probably done it for more than just last year, the 8th grade students, vocal choir students at BF and GW were invited to come to the high school choir concert and perform a shared song.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that logistically is tricky.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine. Yeah.
Because we can't do like a rehearsal during the day because they're all different buildings.
Boom, that's what it is.
Yeah, so the teacher had like visited the other schools, pushed content online. So here's tracks that you can listen to, that you can sing along, you can rehearse to. Everybody gets to the school concerts at 7:30. They get to do a quick run through.
Right.
And that's like the first time that group is together to perform. Yeah. Those cross grade level events are really fun. But doing those is some of the logistics get tricky, but those are areas we keep trying to like think about how we can do more of those types of things.
Well, it's building connection and it's building community. So again, I just want to thank you for that and keep up the good work. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I enjoy talking about these types of things.
So maybe we can try and figure out how we can get one of those tiny desk concerts to be part of Ridgewood Talks too. So, all right. Well, thank you again. And I will say this. This was a very inspiring conversation, and you are a true champion of the arts for our Ridgewood students. And this episode, ladies and gentlemen, was produced by Gil Edwards of Ignite Creator Studios right here in Ridgewood. So be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and don't forget to like, follow, and share this podcast with your family, friends, and neighbors. And you can find Ridgewood Talks on all the major podcast platforms, and you can watch a full video version on YouTube and Spotify. So thanks again for listening, and remember, when we support the arts, we strengthen our schools, our community, and each other. So until next time, see ya. Bye.